What is the secret to unlocking your full potential? What makes your idols any different than you? How do you become the person you've always wanted to be in life? This is where you get all of your questions answered. My name is Justin Shank, and I sit down with some of the most epic individuals who are changing the world with their actions in business and in life. We discuss how they did it, why they pushed themselves, and more importantly, how they were able to focus on continuous growth to achieve their dreams. Welcome to the Growth Now movement. Joel Marion has been helping literally millions of people worldwide slash body fat, gain muscle, and dramatically improve their lives through his cutting-edge articles, witty blogs, and breakthrough diet programs ever since breaking into the fitness industry more than 10 years ago by winning the world's largest body transformation contest for quote-unquote regular people. Now Joel's a 5-time best-selling author. He hosts one of the world's top podcasts called Born to Impact, which I'm going to be a guest on in a couple of weeks. And he gets featured on television all the time. He runs a company that does over $300 million a year called Biotrust, and he's absolutely impacting lives all over the world, being open about his faith and his journey in entrepreneurship. I really think you guys are going to love this episode. He really gets technical on how he was able to go from being a school teacher to over $100 million a year. And it's really just mind-blowing, the journey and how he was able to connect with the right people in order to level up his life. Joel's somebody who truly gives unconditionally. And in this interview, it's actually a live interview. I was in his house down in Clearwater Beach, and we just had a great time and a great chat. And I really think you guys are going to enjoy sitting in on this one. Now, before we get to the interview, I want to tell you guys about something new that I'm launching. I've decided that I'm going to help 10 to 15 high-performing entrepreneurs begin to level up their relationships, their business, and their impact with the Growth Now Mastermind. So I've now opened it up to applications. So if you go to growthnowmastermind.com, fill out an application. We'll be reviewing them over the next 3 to 4 weeks, and we're going to be selecting the 10 to 15 people that I'm going to be working with closely on a monthly basis with one-on-one calls, group calls, and then 3 weekend retreats throughout the year. So go to growthnowmastermind.com if you're ready to level up in all areas of your life. Now, without further ado, let's get into the episode with Joel Marion. Joel, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, it's a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. Thanks for making the trip down to Florida, my neck of the woods, to make this happen today.
For sure, man. It's my pleasure. So here we are. We're in your beautiful home down here. And it's just an absolute honor to sit down with you. Obviously, know your story. I've seen you on a number of podcasts, and a mutual friend of ours, Nick Santadesasso, hooked it up, and I'm just happy to have the conversation, dude. You do some amazing things. And you do it a little bit differently, and I think that's what I really like about you. Like, you bring your faith into it. Yeah. You're unapologetically yourself. This is who I am, and you've built massive businesses, and now you're building a massive podcast that is part of your new journey and a huge following on Instagram, and we'll get into all that stuff. But why don't you take a minute and tell my audience a little bit about yourself and who you are today, and then we'll unpack how you got there.
Sure. Yeah. So again, my name is Joel Marion. I am I guess the biggest thing I'm known for in business is a company that I'm still very actively involved in called Biotrust Nutrition, supplement company. Part of our story, kind of claim to fame and in the Biotrust world is we are one of the only companies ever to move as quickly as we did. We started with a team of 8 people, and we're wanting to do 10 million our first year. We ended up going from 0 to 100 million in our first full calendar year, which was a wild ride, and everyone was kind of just trying to figure it out along the way. When you have that much growth that quickly, great problems to have, but there also are a lot of problems. My partner had been there once before, though, with another company that he went from, trucking along at around 10 million a year to doing 40 million in one quarter. And he ended up losing that business because of all the mistakes that were made with growth that happened that quickly. So through his experience, we made sure that we probably could have done more than 100 million, but we intentionally slowed things down.
Sure.
And we say, it's funny, we did 100 million in the first 18 months. The first full calendar year was 100 million. And to say that at any point that we actually intentionally slowed things down sounds a little silly, but we had to avoid kind of the wheels falling off the wagon. So Biotrust has been a big success. Before that, I came from health publishing. That's how I met my partner, Josh Bizzoni, in the supplement business. We did a launch together called 7-Day Belly Blast Diet, which he kind of brought me on to do the marketing and recruit the partners, other publishers to promote it. And he had a really strong marketing background as well. And we worked together very well. And that was a very successful launch. We did like 1.2 million in a week on an ebook, which was fun.
Wow.
Yeah, I kind of became known as the launch guy in the health and fitness ebook space.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you figure out some sort of like online hack or something?
Well, I just, one of the big things that, and I'm kind of doing it again with this whole podcast thing, Born to Impact is our show. And I'm just really good at building my network, connecting with people, leading with value. So what I did when I got into the health and fitness industry is, and we'll talk more about the story, but I just befriended everybody and led with value and just not expecting anything. But when it came time that I was releasing one of my own ebook products, of course I had to have all the marketing dialed in and all that as well. But like I had 30, 40 people who had my back to promote it, and like over 100 different people who referred at least one sale for that. Some who referred thousands of sales. So I did the first launch, was my very first ebook launch, did $461,000. And then went on to do $1 million launch about a year later. That was the first one in our industry history. And then even a lot of the direct response internet marketing guys who teach people like how to make money, like the Jeff Walkers, who I learned from Jeff, product launch formula. Those launches weren't even the size that we were doing with health and fitness ebooks, Frank Kern and stuff. So we did the first $1 million launch, and then we repeated it like 4 times after that. And so I've kind of been known as the marketing guy, but really, I have refined my craft of marketing over the years for sure. But even if you can't really scale by yourself.
Yeah.
We do paid advertising and stuff like that, but we really lean half of our business really comes from other publishers referring to us, and that's all a big relationship-based business. Even though we are selling product at the end, it's my true customers are my friends in the industry who help us promote and impact a lot of lives together.
Yeah, and I love you had mentioned leading with value, and that's definitely the reason I'm bringing it up now, because I want to remind myself to talk about it later, because I think that's huge. I think a lot of people don't. People worry so much about like what's in it for me.
Yeah.
And that's something that I do a little bit differently. Like I end pretty much every conversation I have with how can I help you, and it's a genuine how can I help you. Yeah. And it's kind of an interesting take on that. But the funny thing is as we're recording this, the episode that came out was the Sean T episode, and both of us were like, "Hey, we're from Jersey." He's actually from around the same area. He was from Deptford.
Okay. My buddy, my best friend, ran the Deptford Mall Chick-fil-A for a while. Now he owns a freestander in Voorhees, which has been very successful. That's about $6 million a year for Chick-fil-A. It's like more than like most like Outback or Carrabba's do.
Yeah, that's crazy
for fast food. So it's cool. But yeah, I'm very familiar with the area.
Yeah, for sure. And so we talked about that. We talked about the Jersey bond. And Sean T goes, "You can run into somebody when you're in Africa that lives in New Jersey." And you guys are like brothers. So we're both from New Jersey. But the crazy part about your story is you went to college in New Jersey. You became a teacher.
Yeah.
And you look at your life now, right, running a very large company, and you started out as a teacher. Like, what was the shift? Was it always like you didn't want to be a teacher and that you just fell into it, or what?
Yeah, I did. It was not what I wanted to do long term. It was actually something that my dad and I'm grateful for him for. I was a health and exercise science major, and I wanted to get into like personal training or something like that. And then my dad found like this newspaper article that showed average income in different professions, and it had just like different people there, and it was probably like 20 different professions listed with like a photo of somebody and like what the average income was in the field. and they had like doctors and lawyers, and then like personal trainer was like $12,000 a year. And my dad was like, "This is what you want to get into right here, $12,000 a year. Like, you know, at least look up here. There's teachers making 30 to 40,000. You know, you're going to spend all this time in college, which neither of my parents went to college. You know, so like you're gonna spend all this time in college, and you're so smart, and then you're gonna get into a field that you have no potential to make any money. Which, you know, at the time they nor I really knew, like, there's people out there doing multiple seven figures in the health and fitness world, even in gyms, even as personal trainers.
Yeah.
You know, but he's like, why don't you at least, you know, do the teaching thing as well? So I double majored, which added another year onto my my college education. So I was 5-year graduate. But that's where I started out. I'm grateful for it. I had money to pay the bills. I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do long term, but at the same time, it was a good first job out of college while I was trying to get other things off the ground.
Sure.
And while I was in college, is when I kind of fell in love with health and fitness. I won a body transformation contest called Body for Life. There was a big New York Times bestselling book called Body for Life, which was tied into a nutritional supplement company, EAS, Experimental and Applied Sciences, run by a guy named Bill Phillips. Bill, in the late 90s and early 2000s, was like the you know, like the number one dude in health and fitness. You know, from his book, which sold millions of copies, was on the New York Times bestseller list, I think, for 3 years straight.
Wow.
To Muscle Media was the partner magazine, and that Muscle Media 2000, which just turned into Muscle Media, and huge impact that company had. And then they ran this body transformation contest called the Body for Life Challenge, which is a 12-week transformation contest. And I got introduced to that book while I was in college, my freshman year. That's got me excited about health and fitness, because previously I was one of those guys who was working out 2 hours in the gym, not really seeing any results. You know,
Sure.
trying to figure out why I'm not building muscle, and like clearly my diet was the huge reason, and I was overtraining as well. But I finally started putting the pieces together on how this all this works, and I started getting results. And then I won that contest, which was the biggest body transformation contest. They have different categories for male and female and age brackets and stuff. But for my category, male 18 to 25 years old, I won that year, which like grand prize like 25 grand and like a all expenses paid trip to Maui, Hawaii, and like
as a college kid, that's
for
insane.
a 19-year-old kid,
Yeah.
like holy crap! I thought I was on top of the world, you know, and I was at the time. So that's when I wanted to kind of get back and share. I was really passionate, and I see this theme in my life over and over and over again. Right, we make our own personal transformations, and we see how something has just revolutionized our lives, and then we want to go and share it with other people, right? So the first one was health and fitness. I won this contest. I wanted to get into a career with health and fitness and inspire others to make the same transformation that I did, because I was the guy who was struggling to get fit. I'm not blessed with the best genetics. And then I figured it out, and I'm like, man, there's a lot of other people. Like, I want to help show them the way as well, so they're not getting frustrated and with wasting their time in the gym or trying to eat healthy, and they're not getting the results that they want. Because I know how frustrating that can be, right? When you're really putting a lot of effort into something and it's not going the way that you want it to go.
Yeah.
So, but then later in life with my entrepreneurial journey, same thing. It's like I went from a teacher to getting into health publishing, and I was writing articles and stuff like that. And then I had a print book that flopped. You know, it was published by a major publisher, Random House, a division of Random House.
Isn't that like huge, #1, right?
Yeah, huge New York City publisher. I had a $100,000 advance. I was 24 years old. This is my second year in teaching.
So wait, hold on. You got a $100,000 advance, and this is like, I can see that happening now. You have 1.3 million followers on Instagram.
So I had a good concept, and I've always kind of been a marketer at heart, I guess, before I was even knew really what marketing was.
Yeah.
I knew how to sell something. I knew how to paint a picture that something could be really big. And the concept of the book was called the Cheat to Lose diet, and it was how to use strategic cheat days to accelerate your metabolism and eat your favorite foods and lose weight faster, which people saw that as like, this could be the next big thing. So they took a shot on me. Also at the time, I was writing for Men's Fitness magazine. I was a regular, I was on the Men's Fitness Training Advisory Board. I was writing for Muscle Media, which was the partner magazine with the Body for Life contest. I won the contest, and then just to give the timeline, I won the contest. Then I was passionate about sharing. I submitted an article to the magazine as one of the champions for the contest. Like the editor, said, yeah, let's publish this. He had to doctor it up and edit it. I wasn't a great writer at the time, but coming from somebody who won the contest, it resonated well with the audience, you know.
Right.
So I became a regular contributor there, and then from there it leaked out into writing for a lot of different online magazines as well as print, with Men's Fitness, and then Muscle and Fitness, Hers, and Women's Day, even like anything that was even had a lifestyle section of the magazine, you know, it's published in like 30 or 40 major magazines, you know. But at the same time, I'm a struggling freelancer. You're getting paid like $200-$300 a piece for these articles.
And still teaching.
And still teaching. Right,
Wow.
right. So we pitched a book idea, and that was this is a whole other story. I mean, every single one of these steps along the way was riddled with things not working out, keeping going, and then finally hitting a breakthrough. You know, I my first 100 articles or so got rejected. Apart from Muscle Media was the only one who would publish me because I was a champion. All the other ones,
you were the face.
Yeah. All the other ones, rejection right after rejection. Then I had this idea for a print book. I thought it was really marketable. I got turned down by agent after agent after agent for one reason or another. 6 months later, after like almost throwing in the towel, I got introduced to one last person who happened to represent Barry Sears with the Zones diet, and Joy Behar from The View, and Montel Williams, and LL Cool J, and all these other guys. He was a big-time agent. And he just loved the concept of the book. So we signed the paperwork that I would be his client, and then we sold the book 2 days later for $100,000. You know,
wow.
It's that was after six months of feeling like this is going absolutely nowhere, and then maybe I shouldn't be doing this, or maybe this isn't for me, or whatever. You know.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. Like, when I look at your trajectory of everything, and we still haven't even gotten to the big thing, right? When you look at the trajectory, it's just kind of doors in your face, people saying you can't do it, from your dad to these, you know, representatives saying this is crap, this is not going to work, et cetera, et cetera. Like, what is it about you that somebody might be able to learn to kind of put in their life to persevere through these times?
Yeah, so with Born to Impact, we have the 5 pillars of impact, and perseverance is one of the 5. And I truly believe that you're not going to accomplish anything in life if you do not just keep going. You know, it's we had another guest on our show. You may be familiar with James Clear. He wrote the book Atomic Habits, and he was talking about what they refer to, you know, in their jargon, called the plateau of latent potential, which is basically, it looks like nothing's happening for a really long time. It's not linear. Progress is not linear. It's not like I start today and every day I make a little bit of progress, and then 100 days later I made 100 days worth of progress. It's like you start today, and by day 40 and 50 you probably still you made like 1% progress.
Yeah,
it looks like, and then you hit a breaking point, and then next thing you know, you make the other 50% over the next few weeks, you know. And that's how it worked with me every single time. I just knew that as long as I didn't give up, that I would catch a breakthrough, because I saw that happen previously in other areas. It's like, well, if anything that I accomplished was never right away, right? So I made one accomplishment, and then I anchored that to go back to that when I was being told no on something else. Look, I just got to keep going. The same thing that happened to me before here, you know, I just got to keep going. I'll eventually get a yes. I'll eventually get the right connection if I don't stop, you know. I just got to keep going on this. So that was always my mindset, that unless I quit, I will get there. And that's, you know, that has rung true in my life over and over and over again, from just getting articles published to getting this book deal. But then the book flopped. The book did not do what everyone had hoped it to do.
Yeah, again, another roadblock, another door in your face.
very easily at that point I could say, man, I invested 2 years in this project. That's how long these print books take. Thank God I don't do that anymore. And I just, the health and fitness ebook space is so much easier. I write a book next week and I publish it the week after,
Yeah.
But 2 years was wrapped up in this project. And then it was a huge letdown for me. Very disappointing time to see what ultimately happened. I had visions of being a New York Times bestselling author and just churning out bestseller after bestseller. This was right around the time when South Beach Diet was super, super big. And I looked at these other diets that were doing so well in the category. And I was like, Jorge Cruz was another author, Jillian Michaels. These were all these. I saw myself as the next one of them, right? Like, I'm going to be the next South Beach. I'm going to be the next Jillian. I'm going to be the next Jorge Cruz in this space. I want to be on Dr. Oz and all these other shows promoting my stuff. I'm going to be a featured expert and blah, blah. And then it didn't work out. And I very quickly realized that with publishers, you are one of so many, especially these big publishing houses, that they're going to give you a month, maybe 2, to put a little bit of effort behind your project after it releases. And if it's not taking off, they're on to the next one. They're releasing new books every week, and they're going to focus on the ones that are working, and they're not going to continue to invest in the ones that aren't. So I quickly realized that the publisher, I put my destiny in the publisher's hands, and then I very quickly realized that I need to be the one who's in control. I could have blamed the publisher and say they didn't do enough for me. They promised that they were going to help me build a franchise off of this and all this, which they do. They tell you all this stuff in the meetings because they want you to go with them versus some other publisher.
Sure.
Because they see an opportunity there in case it is the next big thing. But instead of blaming the publisher and saying, hey, they didn't get me on Dr. Oz, if I would have caught this break, I would have been successful. I just took ownership of the failure and said, if I was able to sell these books directly, if I had a bigger audience, if I understood marketing and I could just, sell these books myself, I wouldn't have had this situation. I would have been more in control instead of hoping that I get these media placements or hoping that the publisher comes through on this. Instead, great if they do, but if not, I'm going to fall back on the fact that I can move these myself. I built my own audience, all this. So at that point in time, I became just super obsessed with online marketing. I had a couple of friends of mine who were writing in the magazine industry who had DVD products and stuff that they were selling online. For those listening who don't know what DVD is. It's
before streaming.
Right, before Netflix. You had a DVD player and you put this disc in there, much like CDs, if you know what a CD is. Probably don't know what any of these things are. It's funny. Podcasts like this whole thing that we're doing right now never existed when we were, even at that time when I was 20-some years old. So I had some other friends who had successful, I say successful, like they were making $1,000 a month. They said, we pay our car payments with the income I'm making from this ebook stuff or these DVDs that we're selling online. And I'm like, well, if these guys can pay their car payment, and so another guy said, I'd like to pay my mortgage with just the checks that come in on autopilot from this stuff. I'm like, if I really put effort into it and try to crack the code on this could be like a full-time gig for me. I didn't really have desire to be in the gym training people. That was never what I wanted to do. I wanted to have I loved writing, so I wanted to get my stuff out there via the internet. I just didn't really have any idea how to do it. So
what year are we talking about now?
This was 2007 going to 2008.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is still MySpace days.
Yes.
This is before Facebook and Facebook ads and all that stuff.
This is Facebook. I mean, this is MySpace completely. Yes. MySpace was huge then. It was like Dane Cook was the first guy to hit 1 million followers on on MySpace.
Yeah, he blew up after that. It's crazy.
Yeah, this was the that day and age for sure. So I just decided that I was going to sink everything I had into it. I had to go back to teaching. I had a $100,000 advance. The money was running out after paying taxes, and I took the year off to promote the book. I went on sabbatical, with the intention of never going back. But
right.
I left it open to where I could come back if I needed to or wanted to. And I had to. I was in a position where I was running out of money. I was actually in credit card debt at the end of that. So here I am. And I was embarrassed too about it. I was super embarrassed about having to go back to teaching, because I talked so much about how this is going to be my future, and all my friends around me were so amped up for the release of the book, and then the book doesn't do well, and I find myself in a position where I need to go back and teach. And I just feel like the biggest failure, of course, my friends and my family support me no matter what, but I feel like everyone was riding on me, just this was going to crush it, and then it didn't.
Yeah.
And then here's Joel, going back to being a teacher.
It's tough.
Health and physical education teacher. Yeah. So it was definitely a very challenging time for me, but I knew it's not what I wanted to do forever. And if I was going to get myself out of the position that I was in, I was going to have to figure out how to sell myself. So I was going to figure out how to, be able to move copies of books myself. So that's what I did. I started learning from all the greats in direct response marketing. I went copywriting. Copywriting is basically how to write the words that are going to sell whatever it is you're selling.
I just said to somebody the other day, if you know how to copyright, you're invaluable.
Yeah. It's like, they say it's like printing money, right? I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna write my next sales letter, and this is $1 million sales letter, which I've had numerous $1 million sales letters. I've had certain funnels for sales funnels that I've written for Biotrust that have done 30 or 40 million in revenue just from one funnel.
Wow.
But I learned copywriting from Yannick Silver, one of the greats in direct response marketing, Joe Vitale, guys like that. And then I learned this whole launch thing from Frank Kern and Jeff Walker. And at the same time, I knew that, hey, if I want to have a big launch, I got to have a lot of people promoting it. So I went out and I made friends with all the who's who of health and fitness ebook marketing. ClickBank was the big network that everyone was selling their ebooks on.
Yeah.
So they have something called a ClickBank Marketplace, where you go to clickbank.com, you click on Marketplace, and you search by category. And I went to health and fitness, and it's basically all the best sellers there. So I just made friends with 9 out of the top 10.
That's so smart.
Guys there. And I was like, hey, how can I help you? I had some things in my back pocket that these guys didn't. They figured out how to sell, and these people were had no publicity, no nothing. They're just quietly making hundreds of thousands of dollars selling ebooks. And I was a guy who I had a print book, which was kind of like a calling card where I could get in front of some of these guys. And I was on the Men's Fitness Advisory Board, and because of that, I could get other people published in the magazine and stuff.
Sure.
So I just used any leverage I had that these guys would view as interesting or cool, to say, hey, how can I provide value to you? Love what you're doing. I'm working on my first ebook, but in the meantime, love to send you a free copy of my print book. I love to, as I said, I'm on the Men's Training Advisory Board. I love to do a testimonial that you could use on your website about your book. If you could send me a review copy, and we can even get you interviewed in one of these magazines. I also wrote for AskMen and bodybuilding.com.
Yeah.
So I was able to just do some favors for these guys without ever expecting anything. It wasn't like, hey, I'll do this if you promote my thing later. I knew I had to have real relationships with people, and then if I had something worthwhile for them to promote, they would.
Yeah.
So all this whole next year is when I kind of put all my ducks in a row for this. At the same time, though, I had a really small. I say small, it may sound big to some people, but it's super, super tiny compared to anything that we're doing now. I had 2,000 people on my newsletter list who signed up, and I was not publishing a regular newsletter or anything like that. I just had an email sign up. They're
Sure.
Here when we post new blog articles or whatever, which I don't even think we were actively mailing that list. But I had 2,000 kind of raving fans who found me either through the book or through my print magazine, just on my website, where it just said free newsletter and then sign up, which is, I think back how terrible that was. That my lead magnet was a free newsletter, which no one wants,
Yeah, but back then though, but that was the tactic, right? And it has evolved since then. And I think as I'm listening to this, I'm blown away by this story because you just packed so many stories of overcoming adversity, pushing through, creating relationships. This is like in the course of 3 years.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. It sounds like a lifetime from that till now, and that's only 10 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now you're running this huge company. But I think and stop me if I'm wrong, but what I'm seeing is you've taken this tactic and you've copied and pasted it.
Yeah.
You know, and grew everything you're doing to get to where you are.
Yeah, we just launched a new business that's doing $3 million a month, and like we just launched it 2 months ago. You know, because I know the formula and we have all the relationships now. The two things, if people like, as far as it comes to like selling stuff online, if in the info marketing business, right, selling knowledge, if you learn copywriting, and then you create relationships with other people who in your industry who can then promote it for a commission. Like we actually pay people 100% commission, which is what blows people's minds when, you know, who are outside of the industry, when I tell people that.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we pay our affiliate partners 100% commission, meaning if I'm selling an ebook package and then we have some complimentary add-ons and stuff, and the average order is $50, the affiliate gets paid $50. What I get out of that is I get a new customer that I can build a relationship with and sell other products and services to over time. You know,
right.
So I'm all about the longevity, the lifetime value of the customer, and I'm giving away everything on the front end. But by doing that, one of the big lessons that I'll talk about here as well is, one was lead with value, two is just be as generous as possible. Because if I'm paying 100% commission and my stuff converts just as well as somebody else who's paying 75%, it's a business decision at that point. Okay, I got two products I can promote. They're both good products. They both convert the same. One pays me $50 a sale. The other one pays me $30 a sale. They're going to send for the one that pays them $50 a sale a lot more often, right? So I always strive to be as generous as possible, and I think I've kind of ruined it for other people in the industry, because they get pissed at me that we're doing this 100% commission thing, because now they have to compete, right? So everyone now, it's become the norm, 100% commission, versus when I got started it was 75%, and then I remember just a few years before that, it was 50% commission. Oh man, I just think of like what my business would look like if people were actually cool with 50% commission these days. You know, like, what's it coming back in my, and that was like generous back in the day, but it's evolved, right? So
yeah. So this business is doing $30 million a month. That's not through the affiliate. That's not through
$3 million a month.
$3 million a month.
Yeah.
So that's what you're paying out to people.
Well, it's a lot of it is just through building an email list. But yeah, I mean, we're paying over $1 million in commission to affiliate partners a month. It's generating $3 million, and there's very low overhead because this is actually in the publishing industry as well. So we don't have cost of goods and a huge team and all that stuff. But we do paid media, and then we do affiliates, and combined between the two, it's 7 figures. You know, that's being paid, but like we're generating this huge email list, which is a big asset for, obviously recurring revenue. It's just like I always have that to fall back on. Even if I paused all my affiliates and paused all my paid media and had 0 expenses, I still have this huge email list that every time I hit send, it's generating revenue and income for me. You know? So those are the two big things that I've done right. Of course, the marketing has to be there, but apart from that, it's leading with value, creating relationships, and then being the guy who's as generous as possible. And I am, not only with the payouts, but like with my time, energy, resources. You know, I feel like I pride myself on being known as, what people say about me, that I'm one of the most generous, helpful guys in the space. And my reputation that I built being that has one of the major reasons why I've been so successful. So to go back real quick about that whole newsletter sign up thing, I had 2,000 people, just close that loop, 2,000 people on that list. And before I launched my first ebook, I wrote a sales letter for online personal training, because I knew some other guys that were doing that. My friend John Berardi from Precision Nutrition, who was another author friend of mine. Precision Nutrition is like a $50 million a year. Like they have nutrition certifications. They work with a lot of athletes and collegiate teams and stuff like that, Olympic teams as well, on athletes for nutrition. But anyway, John had this online personal training thing where it was like $200 a month or $250 a month to work with him or one of his coaches, you know. and they would have like a customized nutrition program for you and all that. I wrote a sales letter based on everything I learned from Yannick Silver. I wrote the sales letter for an online coaching program. I released that with 4 emails that I wrote, following kind of the little pattern to release a new product that he came up with, to this 2,000 person email list. Ended up getting 50 people to sign up for that, paying $200 a month. And it was a 4-month minimum commitment. I told the story like, hey, I don't want to invest all the time in clients who aren't serious, so it's it's going to be a 4-month minimum. If you have faith in me, and you followed me for a long time now. If you have a bad experience, of course, like, sure, we'll refund you, but like, we want to know that people are committed. So people went into it knowing it's going to be 4 months. I had 50 people at $200 a month. Now I'm making $10,000 a month, which over the next couple of months, I paid my credit card debt off, and then I was like actually making good money. Meanwhile, my salary is $40,000 a year.
Yeah.
So
that's sucking up all your time.
Right. Exactly. So I'm like, man, I gotta just do more of this. So then that's when I knew, like, okay, this is a real thing. People will actually, if I do this right, if I can persuade them that I have a solution that's going to really help them, they're willing to spend money, online with somebody virtually, which was, I heard other people doing it, but it became real to me when it was like, okay, I logged my PayPal account and I see, thousands of dollars there, right? So then I kind of put all my ducks in a row to release this ebook. This is the crazy part. We took the same exact concept from the book that failed in the traditional marketplace, right? And rebranded it called Cheat Your Way Thin instead of Cheat to Lose. Cheat Your Way Thin. Turned it into more of a course versus an ebook. Had some audios, had some video stuff, which was just PowerPoint presentation, me walking through a program, and had some manuals that were all PDF manuals. So it was an ebook course. And we sold it for $47, and then there was like a $97 upgrade. We did over $400,000 when we launched that. And now a lot of that went to my affiliates. We're paying 75% commission, but I made just over $100,000 in 3 days. I put my resignation in the next day. I told
figured this out.
I told them, like, I knew, like, I was already making good money from the coaching program. Then I had another $100,000 come in, and I'm like, I know that if there's no risk here. Like, I know what to do moving forward. Now it's just about building it, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I knew I had an email list of customers that I was going to continue to be able to promote other products and services to as I provide value to them. And I put my resignation in. I said, I'll finish out the school year. But like after this year, this will be my last year. Finished out the school year, and then at the end of the summer, I moved down here to Florida and did the ebook thing for a while, about 3 or 4 years. And then after that big launch that I ran with Josh Bozzoni, it's funny because, like, I'm sitting across from you, and we come from the same county in New Jersey. And then my partner, Josh Bozzoni, worked at EAS when I won the contest. He was one of the judges for Body for Life. This was 10 years before us meeting, when I was still a kid in college. And he was working at EAS, was his first job out of college. So he learned a supplement background there. He went off and did supplements on his own. Then he got into health publishing, and then he wanted to get back into supplements. And he approached me and said, hey, we did such a killer job on this launch. I'm thinking about getting back into supplements, and I would love, to do this with you. What do you think? And it made all the sense in the world at the time because all of our customers were looking for supplements, and we were promoting another brand. I'm like, well, I guess it makes sense if I own the company that I promote, and instead of building up somebody else's company, I build up my own. Yeah. Where I actually am an owner and have equity value in that. So launched that company in 2012 after doing the ebook thing for a number of years, and here we are 7 years later, and 600 some million in sales, and it's been a crazy ride, but I'm very grateful for it all, and lots and lots of lessons learned. But I could tell stories for hours just about Biotrust and all the obstacles we overcome there.
I couldn't even imagine the stories on such a bigger scale. Number one, But number two, and I know I said this earlier, but like this is over the course of 10 years. You went from a $40,000 a year teacher to running a $600 million a year company.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And I think that what that does is it gives people the idea, and especially you and I coming from the same county, like it hits home, right? And so like it doesn't matter where you are. Just start making the right steps.
Right.
And start to figure it out. And you're going to fail, and you're going to go through all that stuff. And that's absolutely crazy. But I love how, and I'm going to bring it back to the value add thing. That's where it all started. If you didn't figure out the whole, I need to provide value to these individuals, none of this would have happened. That's just the reality, right? So where did that come from?
Well, I knew that I couldn't do it myself. And then I also knew that people want to do business with other people that they're friends with.
Yeah.
You know, and I said, well, how have I created all my friendships? Well, I've been a good dude. I've been helpful. I'm always there for people. I try to give more than I take. And then I just said, well, if I want to become friends with all these guys, true friendships, right? You know, and these guys, it's funny because I had my hit list for the top 20 vendors on ClickBank, which again, like 9 out of the top 10 I became friends with that year. And I didn't know them at all. Like, I had no one who I was connected with that knew them. Like, this whole aspect of social media where it's a lot easier to network with people nowadays.
Yeah,
like,
or being a podcast host.
Like, I didn't know any of them, nor did I know anyone who knew them. I was so far removed that I was starting at zero. I mean, literally at zero. And within a year, I was, like, legitimate friends. Like, they would, like, invite me out to dinners with them and stuff like that, where like we hung out, you know, like, and a couple of them, like one of them was the biggest guy in the space at the time. His name's Mike Geary, and who still runs, you know, a very large company called Nutrition Watchdog, and was Truth About Abs back then, which sold like 2 million copies or something. It was a book that no one ever heard of that sold 2 million copies.
That's crazy.
Just flooded the internet. But Mike lived in Morristown, New Jersey.
Yeah.
So right in Burlington County. I found that out when I reached out to him and wanted to send him a copy of my book. And he gave me his address. And I'm like, dude, you're like 10 minutes from me. Why would I just give this to you in person and we'll go grab a beer or something? He was the first, and he gave me the time of day. You know, I told him what I was trying to do, and I had this online coaching program, and it's doing well, and I was getting into ebooks, and you know, admired his work, would help him however I could, and then I said, you know, let me just give it to you in person and go grab a beer if you have some time. And we did, and he like sat with me for a good 90 minutes, and we had a great conversation, kind of, you know, was the first guy to add value to me and take me under his wing. But then through him, I just met other people, you know. So in a short period of time, like 9 months, I was friends with and had real now, if I launched a product where the marketing sucked and nothing converted and no one made money, like I would have blown it, right? So I knew that I had to have everything, all my ducks in a row to be successful. But I just wanted to create friendships first, and knew that the business aspect of it would come after that.
Yeah.
And what's other, you mentioned the speed of how all this is happening. Like, I went from making $40,000 a year to making my first $1 million within 2 months. Within 2 years. Within 2 years.
Yeah.
I kind of laid the groundwork the first year. Had $10,000 a month coaching program coming, so I was making 6 figures just with that. And then we launched the ebook, and I took home another $100,000. And then very quickly, I was making $50,000 a month, and then I was making $100,000 a month. And within 2 years, I was, you know, bringing home 7 figures. You know, so that's what's possible. You know, you can start literally at leaving your day job, getting something else off the ground, or simultaneously that's what I did. I went back to teaching. This was my schedule. I'd wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'd be teaching my first class at 7:15. I lived like a mile from the school. So I'd up, shower, grab something, you know, quick on the go, a bar or something like that, and head to the school. Teach my first class at 7:15. I was at the school till 2:30, 2:45. Come home, took like a 30-minute power nap, and then just got to work on this whole business thing. And I would work from like 4 p.m. to like 2 a.m. every day, and then up at 6 o'clock. Every day, every weekend, all business, building the business, learning copywriting, practicing, creating relationships, I had like no social life for a year. I had to put other stuff on hold to set that's another big lesson is so many people are like, would not make the sacrifices that I made for a very short time to put myself, like 2 years later, I was running a business generating 7 figures a year, and like I was really only working 2-3 hours a day.
Yeah, I was gonna say how many hours you're putting in then.
Yeah, I was like working like literally like 2-3 hours a day, and I probably could have even worked less if I wasn't like still trying to grow it.
Sure.
I could have. It was an easy $1 million plus a year. I grew that to I was making $3 or $4 million net a year, running, working at concentrated periods of time where it get a little hectic and crazy when we're launching new products. But it was like work really hard for a month and then kind of take 2 months off, and once a quarter we would do a big launch. But I had to make the sacrifices of like, look, if I didn't put all my effort and energy into this, I don't think I would have got there. And I had to do it. I had to pay the bills at the same time, so I had to work my day job. But so many people aren't willing to just do whatever it takes for a short period of time. Hey, eat rice and beans for a little while if you have to, right? Some people, they're trying to get something off the ground, and they just don't have the financial means to do it because there's some startup cost. Well, find some ways to just like literally have ramen noodles for a little while, do what it takes. For me, being a single guy was a little bit easier than some people if they have families that they need to provide for. But even at the same time, I had to work my full-time job. I worked around the clock. I slept 3 to 4 hours a day. And then every weekend I was doing nothing but working on the business. All my friends kind of took the back seat. Sure, I would get out like maybe once in a month and see people and go out to dinner or something like that. But like I had no social life for the most part. I had to put it on hold. But it set myself up. So like, hey, I'm going to sacrifice for a year and a half really big, so that I can have the next 70 years of my life, I can live the way that I want, Yeah. And
so what
short-term sacrifice for long-term gain.
What drives you now? Like, I don't know, but it seems like you don't need more money. It seems like, all that stuff. What's driving you now to continue to grow these businesses and continue to put in? What is it about it?
Well, I just want to impact as many people as possible, and I know that it takes revenue to do that. This podcast that we launched with Born to Impact is near and dear to my heart because I see, we get and I'm sure you do as well, the DMs that come in and the emails and the people who we talk to, or people like I've literally had people like stop us at restaurants and like just open up their heart about how the podcast has changed their life. And I see the impact, and I just want to do more and more of that. So right now, it's very impact focused. Is what is like I get riled up and super pumped about the impact, but I also know it takes revenue. So if I can grow my other companies as much as possible, we would love to exit the supplement company and have a big payday so I could dedicate more time to the impact stuff that I'm doing, and also like I don't need to worry about money anymore at all at that point. I do fine now, and we have a lot stored up. But like we're sitting here in my home, and I obviously live a good lifestyle, and we travel a lot, and we do things big. I don't just do business big, but I do life big. So I'm not living above my means by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a lot of bills.
Yeah.
It's a lot of bills coming in. So I know I have to obviously continue to bring in the revenue to keep all this stuff going.
For sure.
And at the same time, all the extra allows me to funnel into building the podcast and impacting more lives.
Which I love.
Yeah. And we want to do live events and other things like that, like you have planned. And that's where my heart is. That's where, what gets me excited now. It's really I heard an interview with Kevin Harrington. Kevin Harrington was one of the original sharks on Shark Tank.
Yep.
Super successful, kind of the inventor of the infomercial. And as seen on TV, his company. He said, first phase of my career, I was obsessed with becoming an entrepreneur. Second phase of my career, I became the as seen on TV, very successful entrepreneur. Third part of my career is empowering other entrepreneurs and giving back. So that's where I'm at in my journey right now. It's like I want to become an entrepreneur. I became a very successful entrepreneur, and now I want to give back and impact people. So I like to get to and I know I have some more work to do in order to get the company to a point where we can have a nice exit. But I know what that will allow me to do after that's done. So this year, actually, in and of itself, it's kind of one of those years where we're back grinding it out. I'm not sleeping a whole lot, just to do whatever it takes, because I'm looking at the long term. What do I want the next? I'm 37 years old. What do I want the next 30, 40 years of my life to look like? Do I want to be running supplement company? Like I could coast and we can have this nice income stream here, but then I'm running the supplement company, which quite honestly, 7 years later, is not the thing that I'm most passionate about anymore. It's fun and exciting building it, but like as an entrepreneur, maybe we get bored easy. So moving on to the next thing, and then honestly, the more impactful thing beyond health and fitness and supplements is what I want to be doing for the rest of my life. I want to free up the time to do more speaking, to do more podcasts like this, to help more people. And the motivation is right now is just like, again, it's the same thing that I did when I got into business, when I was working those crazy hours as a teacher. It's let me, put the pedal to the metal for sacrifice again for a short period of time, a relatively short period of time, maybe a year or two. And then that will set myself up for living the next 30 years of my life on my terms.
Yeah. And it's true, too. I mean, you're definitely focused on the impact. You start every one of your shows talking about how you're not making money on it. That's not the goal. We're not going to sell advertising yet, whatever the goal is. Like, I love that because you truly do want to make that impact. And you can feel it in your conversations. You're like, I've done it. You know what I mean? I want to help other people figure that out. And, it's funny. You mentioned people coming up to you and saying how it's impacted you. I never thought in my life that I would ever get noticed. Like, you're 6'5", 4?
Yeah, 6'3".
Yeah, so 6'3". So, like, it's easy to notice a guy who's 6'3" and be like, oh, I'm 5'8". And not imposing in any way, shape, or form. And I was actually in an Uber in Utah. I've obviously been recognized a number of times now, but I was in an Uber in Utah, and the guy just kept staring at me in the rearview mirror, and I'm just like, this is a little weird. And then he ended up like pouring his heart out to me about how much the show has impacted him and all this stuff, and that's what it's all about for me too, right? Mm-hmm. And it's amazing. So why do you think that you're somebody who is inspired by helping others?
Well, I've always been somebody who has taken joy in that, I've always been a really generous person, and I see the impact it has on other people, but I also, there is an aspect of it that, like, hey, it's rewarding for me as well to see that impact. So, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, all right? We should be thrilled when we see what something that we've been able to do for someone else, the fruits of that,
For sure.
So I've always been a giver, even when I was making $40,000 a year as a teacher. 1 year, for example, people were exchanging Christmas gifts in the department. I had eight PE teachers, including me, so 7 others in my department, and we were like doing the Secret Santa thing or whatever. And everyone was just getting a little gift, and that's all that was required. But for me, like, I wanted to show my appreciation for people in the department and the friendship that we've developed as all working together, helping each other out. A lot of the senior people kind of helped me navigate the road. As I taught high school, and I was a 23-year-old kid teaching high school, and these 17-year-old kids, I'm not too far removed from them. So I had some stuff to learn with how to deal with certain situations, and I had these other senior people who were just super cool and awesome and helping me get learning the ropes and how to navigate through some of this stuff in the first couple of years, being the rookie, So I just want to do something substantial to show my appreciation, and I got tickets to a comedy show in Atlantic City for a well-known comedian that was coming, and I invited everyone out for dinner and the comedy show, and I'm making $40,000 a year, that's like it's like easily a $1,000 plus night for me, but at the time, it was something I just felt in my spirit that I wanted to do. I did, and like that brought me so much joy just going out and having that experience with, and then the level of bonding and connection that came, and we're all closer as a department after that. So I saw that, And then ever since then, that's all I've been doing, and it's one of the reasons why I'm so successful in what I do is because I just get people together. We host vacations where we take our top 10 partners, publishing partners who promote and refer their customers to our business for supplements, and we'll sponsor a vacation, and we had 3 amazing villas in Dominican Republic, private chefs there, all these cool activities and excursions, swim with dolphins and all this stuff. People really connected on such a deep level.
Sure.
And friendships got deeper, and obviously how people do business together gets deeper through those types of experiences. Just like I saw back when I was a teacher with the PE department, where I got everyone together, we shared a memorable time together, and everybody got closer because of it, and everyone had each other's back a little bit more, Same thing, we host these things to treat people right, and they all get massive value out of it in relationships with one another. Other business partnerships have come out of this. I had a Super Bowl party at my house for like 6 or 7 years. I haven't done it in a couple of years. We've done other things, but 6 or 7 years in a row, we had an annual Super Bowl weekend where we would invite all of our top partners in. And the last one, I think it's probably why we haven't done it in a while, it was like 150 people at my house. But it wasn't just the party, it was the whole weekend ordeal. We had 150 people in town. We would block out entire restaurants for the group. We would have a nice dinner, and then we go do the first night, and then we on Saturday before the Super Bowl, we take people to Busch Gardens, or which is a big theme park around here, and we just have a really fun time. We cover the cost of all that, then another amazing dinner. Then we do an award ceremony for all of our top partners, and then we'd have this big epic grand finale with a Super Bowl party at my house. And again, the relationships, I've seen people who didn't know each other come to one of my events like that, get connected, and now they're business partners in some other venture.
It's huge.
And I just see the value of doing for others and how it always has come back to me. It feels good to give. I don't ever do it with the expectation that, hey, I'm doing this so you do X, Y, Z for me. But in doing so, I can tell you that, they say you can't outgive God. You can't outgive, the universe. It's, I've give till I can't give anymore, and it always just comes back to me. I live in abundance, Yep. I'm grateful for all that I have, and I don't do it with the intention of, hey, I'm giving because I know that if I'm going to reap the harvest. That's why I'm doing it. I never do it with that intention, but God's word is true. It's you plant the seeds, the harvest will come.
Yeah.
Not every time, every seed you plant, a harvest comes. No, but enough of the time it works out.
Yeah.
So I've been very, very fortunate to reap the harvest of all the seeds that I planted, and through God giving back to me, and the I feel like He can trust me with, hey, I'm going to give you more. I'm going to know that you're going to use this to help other people. So then I'm going to give you some more, and that cycle has continued itself. And, I'm excited to be in the position I am, just helping a lot of people.
I just love that story. And you notice that you haven't changed. What's changed is the resources.
Yeah.
You're the same person. You go back. You were, no offense, I know what it was like to make $40,000 a year, and you can't afford $1,000 a night.
Right.
That's crazy. But you gave when you didn't have to give, and now you have to give, and you're giving on an exponential level, and I absolutely love that. So what's next for you? Obviously you have this podcast now that's really taking off and all these other things. So what's next?
Yeah. So what's next in business is we're going to continue to build the supplement company so we can exit and just really see it to the finish line of what we're doing. We've been in this 7 years. There's a lot of companies and we've had a lot of challenges throughout the years. 3 years ago, we actually had a deal on the table to buy 75% of the company, and that deal fell through last minute.
Wow.
Was a very difficult, challenging time for me and my partner, and we learned all the things that were the reasons why it fell through, which we've been correcting over the last couple of years. But would like to continue to obviously put the business in a position to go back to market, and hopefully this time we can make it work. I believe we can, and actually have a real exit. So that's the business side. And then I like to get into more consulting and just helping other people's businesses. I always love the personal relationship side of business. It's like why we create these events, to bring people together, and I love helping other people. I just don't have the time, and time as the main resource, right? That's limited.
Yeah.
I don't have the time to get in there and really get under the hood of what other people are doing as often as I would like. So I like to do more consulting. And then the big thing really is with Born to Impact, we want to continue to grow the podcast. And we want to turn that into a live event. My vision is there's a theater that's right in town here called Duke Energy Theater, and it's about really beautiful theater for performing arts. It's about 2,200 people, a lot of musicians and comedians and shows come in. In there, and we want to start there. But I'm also impact focused. I'm not. We don't do any advertising, and we could. We could make a decent amount of money with the number of downloads that we get through advertising, but we don't do that. That's not the point. It's not. I have other businesses that are my money makers. If I was doing podcasting only for a living, then sure, there's nothing wrong with the advertising, but it's just not our goal and our intent with it. And for the live event, same thing. Like, I want to get the most epic lineup of speakers, like people who have been on the podcast, to that people would normally be spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to be in a room with. And I want to do it $20 for a 3-day event.
Wow.
$20, and then just cover whatever cost extra. That's not going to cover the cost to put on the event,
No, trust me. I'm going through it.
So whatever the delta is there is, I'll lean on some other business friends to maybe donate or sponsor, and then anything I'll come out of pocket on it. I just want to give everyone the opportunity, because I see how a lot of these things have changed my life, and that's what the podcast is all about, is helping people live the life that they were born to live. And it's taken me a while to get on track to where I feel like I'm doing that, and I want to help other people do that and experience the joy and the fulfillment of living the life that they were born to live.
Yeah.
So that would be the first year we do the event, and then 3, maybe 4 years down the line after that, I want to move it gradually to larger venues. And there's a hockey arena downtown Tampa here, where the Tampa Bay Lightning play. It seats about 19,000 people, and my big vision right now is to fill that arena out with a Born to Impact live event.
That's awesome.
Same thing, $20, 3-day thing. Have like premium entertainment come in, and just world-class speakers who are going to help inspire and impact loads of lives. Sell nothing the whole weekend, like nothing for sale. It's $20 to be here, have your life changed. No mastermind pitch, no workshops or courses or anything. Not that there's anything wrong with that stuff. I make my business by selling products and services. It's just not the goal of this part of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
We just want to impact as many people as possible. And the whole reason why I decided that I want to do that is that I see some of these events that I've attended that have been truly life-changing, but were like a super financial stretch for me to attend at the time, and not everyone's going to make that stretch. And then there's other events that are even just like, a spiritual conference, like the one I'm going to next week, and that's in LA at the Microsoft Theater. About 8,000 people will be at Bethel Conference, Heaven Come. Loads of great speakers going to be there. One of my favorite pastors and speakers, Stephen Furtick, will be there. But even that was like $250 for 3 days plus travel. If you're coming from out of town, that's expensive. That's expensive for people to figure that out. So I want to have an event where people cannot make the excuse that, hey, I know that event could have changed my life, but I just couldn't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can figure out $20. You can borrow it if you need to.
Yeah.
But that's what I don't want. I don't want anybody to say, "Hey, my life didn't change because I couldn't afford to go to your event." I just want to give everybody the opportunity to like, "Hey, come learn. Yeah, you're going to have to make some investments along the way, but this first one where you're going to get excited about living that life that you were born to live, like it's going to be more or less free. It's not even going to cover near the cost that it takes to put on the event, the ticket price." So I'm excited about that. I'm excited that the impact is going to come. And who knows, all different kinds of opportunities just spiral through. I'm doing stuff today that 2 years ago I never knew what I'd be doing. So I'm very sure in 3-4 years from now, like if you ask me the same question, I'd probably have a different answer for you.
No, dude, I love it, man. And like you and I have, obviously the tickets for my event are a little bit more expensive than that, but still in I'm here in Tampa, then driving over to Orlando to speak at an event where those tickets start at $900. And I'm one of the speakers there. Where my event's a lot more affordable because I was like, look, I never had an opportunity.
Yeah.
So if I can give an opportunity, and there were people that reached out who were genuinely like, I know this will change my life. I can't afford it. And I helped them out. Yeah. Because it is about the impact. It is about how can I give as much as I can because at least for me growing up, I didn't have the opportunity, and it wasn't until recently that I could start to afford those types of things where you're like, okay, $500 ticket plus travel and whatever, I can do that now, and then I can be in the room. But before it was like, I can't and I want to, but I can't. And I love that, dude. I respect you so much for doing that because there's nobody in the space at your level doing that. And I think that's huge, man. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I get a lot of ideas from the spiritual community. Being a faith-based guy, I see, Joel Osteen came to the same arena that I'm talking about, the hockey arena, and I think he did an event called Night of Hope. That was $10 or something. Clearly, they had to pay to rent the venue and put they're just saying, hey, we want to impact as many people outside of Houston where their main church is, but they meet in an arena. They meet where they have church every Sunday in an arena that size in Houston. But he'll travel around and he'll go on tour and it's like $10 and it's like, man, I admire so much. I understand why he's doing it, right? He wants to reach people. And then there's other people that will have crusades that was like free. Yeah. Free ticket.
I remember when I was a kid, I went to Veterans Stadium in Philly and saw Billy Graham. Yeah. And my family didn't have money, so it had to have been free or super affordable. Right. Like something like $5-10 a ticket.
There's another guy, Greg Laurie, is out in California who's doing this. It's called Harvest Crusades, and he, I'm gonna have him on my show. He's probably somebody that I think that you would love to have on your show just from his vision. But he packed out the Dallas Cowboys Stadium, 80,000 people with a free crusade, but 80,000 people. And I was watching like a little trailer about it that they released after the event, and he said, a lot of people were like, because the last event that they had was like 20,000, and then we made this big jump. The next year we said we're going to do it in this stadium, and we'll just trust God to fill it, 80,000 people. And everyone was like, don't you think like that's a little bit too much of a jump, And he said, what's the worst that could happen? Like, I tried too hard to impact people's lives, and we only had 40,000 people show up. Yeah. The upper level was not full. Everyone had a great seat, and there's 40,000 people there. If that's the worst that can happen, he's like, this is why most people don't make these types of moves, because the very worst that could happen in this situation is that we impact more people than the arena that we were at capacity at last time. And if it's one more person, then so be it, Yeah. And then we'll learn from it. So, but they did it and they filled it, Yeah. So.
And I will say this too: when people are listening, of course they did it. It was free. Free is the hardest thing to fill. Yeah. Because it's not that people don't commit. Yeah. Right. And that's tough. I mean, it's tough, but that's absolutely crazy, man. So
there's still loads of marketing and everything else that goes into it. Not only the cost to rent the venue and all that, but to the advertising cost to fill it with a free event. And sure, they bring on sponsors to help cover the cost and all that, but there's no cost to the actual end user, which is awesome.
Yeah, and that's huge. I mean, that's something that you can't find anywhere else, or very few places. Yeah. Which I love, man. And as you know, with podcasting, you get to sit down with some of the most successful people on the planet. Obviously, you're one of them. So my question for you is, what's your definition of success? And what are 3 things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself?
Yeah, my definition of success is a couple things, really. One, are you happy? Doesn't matter. You can look at, numbers. Somebody did X, Y, Z. At the end of the day, if you're not happy, you're not successful. I don't care what your resume looks like or what the long list of accomplishments look like. If you're not living fulfilled and happy, so happiness and fulfillment is probably number one, is that success. Mm-hmm. and the other side of that, I think is super important, is freedom. If I am very, quote unquote, successful and I'm running a big company and it's at the expense of my family life and my relationship with my kids and my relationships with friends and my relationship with my spouse, and I'm just owned by the business, instead of being the business owner, the business owns me. I'm the business dictates what I'm doing when I'm doing it. As I see so many people in that position, it's very It's very something that you have to navigate, because I lived it for a couple of years when we started Biotrust. Is you have to be very intentional to allow that to happen, because you can lose your freedom in business. Yeah. I got into business and entrepreneurship to create freedom in my life, and then I very quickly saw with this company that I'm sleeping hard. I'm like sleeping 2-3 hours a day. I'm stressed out. My family, I have no time for my family and for the relationships that matter. I got a lot of stuff that I'm not even enjoying. Oh, you live in a big house, but I don't even get in my backyard. That's not success in my mind. Success is being able to do what you want to do when you want to do it. The stuff that fulfills you, the stuff that makes you happy. If you have created true freedom in your life and you're happy, that's true success. There were definitely points where I was just making, we've had years in the Biotrust business where we have done, $20 to $30 million net profit. Okay, split between my my partner and I. That's like A-list athletes make that. You know, at the same time, I wouldn't say that those years were successful years of my life. I would look back and say that those years had a lot of income come through, but there were some of the darker years of my life. I wouldn't equate that to success. And then I look back at years in my early years in ebooks when I was making high six figures, much more successful. Had all the freedom and the happiness and the fulfillment going, So just think about that as you're building it. Why are you building it? If you're giving up the things that really matter in life, happiness, fulfillment, and freedom, to get more stuff, more money, it's not sustainable, and it's not really what true success is all about. And you'll learn that if you're on that ride. You'll learn that, like I did. Sometimes it takes to learn through experience. But if you can avoid that through listening to this podcast, I encourage people, keep those three things top of mind: happiness, fulfillment, and freedom. If you're losing those three, any of those three, reevaluate why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, that's huge. So what are three things you do every day to make sure that happens for you?
Well, again, it comes down to being intentional. I make sure I schedule time with my wife. Not necessarily every day we're doing a date night or something, but we try to spend time together after we get the kids to bed. I may still go back and work. She needs a little bit more sleep than I do, but we'll spend some time. We'll watch a show or a series or something, one episode, and have a conversation. We'll go out to breakfast a couple times a week. We'll have a date night intentionally on the calendar once a week. You have to pencil the things in that are important first, and then do your other stuff on your schedule around that.
Yeah.
I try to make sure that I'm available for my kids. I wake up every morning and take my kids to school with my wife. We drop my kids off together. I have 6 and 8-year-old daughters, kindergarten, second grade. We drive them to school every day. They're going to look back and remember that mommy and daddy were there, and they dropped me off at school every day. They didn't have to deal with taking the bus. They didn't have to have some stranger or some. My housekeeper is here, Sarah, who's kind of become, part of our family. But I would hate it if they knew my housekeeper more than they knew me.
Yeah.
So we're very intentional about scheduling the time with the family. We have that time block. I try to wrap up work around 5, between 5 and 8 when my kids go to bed. I'm there with the family and I'm present. I put my phone aside. So there's another big takeaway is. One is learn to avoid the distractions that are going to get in the way of what's really important. If I have my phone on me, it's just too much of a temptation. I want to be on it, looking at it, checking email, get distracted. Oh, problem just came through. I need to deal with this.
Yeah.
So I'm off my phone between 5 and 8. That's another big thing about, again, being intentional, avoiding the distractions. And then the other big thing, and it seems commonplace, but it's just a good reminder, is like try to get every night at the end of the day, I make a list of 3 things that I want to get accomplished tomorrow. And those are the first 3 things that I work on before I open my email, before I check, all my messages on my phone and all that stuff. Like, I just cross those things off. There's nothing more fulfilling than crossing big items off your list. And then you have the rest of the day just to say, hey, if I get nothing else done today, if I took the rest of the day off and just spent it with my kids, I already won the day.
Yeah.
I got the 3 big things done. Instead of waking up, checking your email, spending hours just going back and forth, answering things that aren't really moving the needle, get those 3 things done first. You're going to feel so much better about your productivity, and it also creates more freedom because, at noon every day, I got that stuff done, and then, I'll check my email and get into some other things or get on phone calls, but just use that first half of the day to get those 3 big items done. And obviously, if it's a huge project, like I'm going to write sales copy for a new funnel, that might be, hey, you just spend that 3-hour time block in the morning from 9 till noon just doing that one thing. But, if it's nice when you can cross multiple things off. So if you want to spend 2 hours writing copy and then another task that may only take you 20 or 30 minutes to put 2 of those in there, try to get 3 things done if you can. Anytime I can cross 3 significant things off my list, I feel pretty good about the day.
Yeah, and if you're done by noon, you feel real good for the rest of the day. It makes it easier to put the phone down for 3 hours. It makes it easier to do all those other things.
It's not all this anxiety about the things you have to do that you didn't do.
Yeah, for sure. So I wrap up all these episodes with 5 rapid-fire questions. But before we get there, how do people get a hold of you? How do they connect with you? All that good stuff.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. It's my main social channel, at Joel Marion. The podcast is Born to Impact. Again, we're getting ready to flip the script here and interview you, so you'll be able to hear Justin's episode coming up. And I love that. So many epic conversations. We had amazing guests. Ed Milet, Lewis Howes is a long-term friend of mine. Again, Justin will be on here. Jim Quick, the celebrity brain coach. Grant Cardone, there's so many, Tim Story, so many amazing people who have been on the show, who have been friends of mine and share their stories. I think you'll really, really enjoy that. So check us out on iTunes or whatever podcast platform you're listening on. It's Born to Impact. Just search for that or my name and it'll come right up. Those are 2 main things. If you're looking to tap in to get healthier, our main site is biotrust.com.
Awesome. Yeah, and obviously if you're on your computer, you can actually see what's hot. I don't know if you know this, but you're on What's Hot right now for all podcasts. That's pretty cool, man. You're killing it right now. And I will also say this to everybody listening. I don't listen to many podcasts. Like when you're producing your own and then worrying about your team and doing whatever, it's hard to sit down all the time and listen to an hour here, an hour there. Ever since Nick was on your show and he shared it out, I've been an avid listener. Yeah, I think it's awesome. A phenomenal show. You get to the points that need to get. You literally teach things, actionable things that people can take away. Not many do that. And so I highly recommend check out Born to Impact. So we're going to get into 5 rapid-fire questions. Some are fun, some are serious. Okay. I just ask you this. Answer within 1 word or at the most 1 sentence. Are you ready?
Okay, sure.
So the first one is, what is your favorite smell?
Pizza.
Nice, dude. It's a great smell. It's a great smell. The second one, what is one trait in a friend for you that's non-negotiable?
Loyalty.
Awesome. One person living or dead that you could have dinner with, who would it be?
Denzel Washington.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
my favorite actor. Loads of respect for him, what he's accomplished. My dream is to actually have him on the podcast, which I believe we will.
That's awesome.
But yeah, he's one of my favorites for so many reasons.
That's awesome. I just recently interviewed somebody The episode hasn't come out yet, but I think it will by the time this episode comes out. I asked him that question, and he goes, Jennifer Aniston from the second season of Friends. Like, it was so specific of, like, he's like, hey, if it's going to be one dinner, it might as well be a date.
Right.
Like, that's really funny. At the end of your life, if you could only be remembered for one sentence, what would that sentence be?
I just want to be remembered. I would love people to say, it's funny that you asked this question at the end of my life, because my goal at the end of my life is my goal right now. And it's what I want people to say about me today, right? And it's the same thing I want them to say about me when I'm gone. And it's just that I was somebody who was a value adder to people's lives, that every room that I went in, I just looked to uplift people and make them better, and to contribute and to give more than I take.
Yeah, I love it, man. And you're doing that. I will say that for sure. Like, you're doing it on an exponential level, which is huge. So obviously this podcast is called the Growth Now Movement. So I wrap up every single episode with this one question, and that is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
It's happening right now. It's personal growth, not necessarily business growth. If you want to say business growth, then sure, you look at the year it went from 0 to 100 million, right? But the growth that really matters in life, I think, is becoming the best version of yourself. And that's an evolution that I've really been on the last couple of years. It's why I got into doing the podcast. You know, we talked earlier, it's you have certain transformations in your life where you want to share what happened so other people can experience that same transformation, because you know they're struggling too. So first it was fitness, then it was entrepreneurship, and now it's just like living my best life, becoming the best version of me. Not just a successful entrepreneur, but very well-rounded in all areas, like living a life of impact. And for me, you know, I'm growing more than ever. This podcast is a big reason for it, you know, to sit down and have these conversations with people. I'm challenged and inspired and sharpened with every single one of them. And that's one of the big reasons why I'm doing it, because it helps me just as much as it helps the listeners. So I'm going through it right now. I will continue to. I'm definitely on a big growth trajectory in all areas of life, and become a better person, which is the most exciting part.
That's awesome, man. Joel, thank you so much for, first of all, welcoming me into your home, but also just adding massive value for myself, for my audience, and just doing what you do every single day on the scale in which you do it and the way in which you do it, which is, in my conversation and the things that I've been through and the people I've talked to, it's unmatched at this point, man. So thank you so much.
It's a pleasure, man. I hope those listening got a lot of value out of it. Try to put some, as we always do, some real practical takeaways that people can say, hey, I can apply this to my life right now. So I'm excited. Please, if you listen to this episode, take a screenshot, tag me in it. We'll reshare it. We'll send some love back Justin's way, and also would love to hear from you. I do pay attention to my DMs, and I love to hear the feedback from people who are blessed by podcasts that we do, and also being a guest on other people's podcasts is a great conversation. So I'm excited to hear how it impacts people's lives.
Awesome, man. Thanks.
Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Growth Now movement. This is how you can really help me out. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. And let's grow this movement to epic heights. And it's all going to be because of you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.